Okay, we're live again. Patriots Lament, Monday, April 6th, 2020. Although it just feels like the 6th day of April 1st. um, yeah, lots of weird stuff happening today. We'll go through our little market wrap up and then we'll get into some of the weirdness.
Okay, U.S. cases and deaths, 362,300 total cases, 10,700 deaths, 1,337,000 global cases with 74,000 deaths. Dow closed at 22,680, up 7.7%. S&P was at 2,664, up 7%. NASDAQ is at 7,913, 7.3% up. Oil was down 7.4 and closed at 26.25. Gold closed at $1,702, which is up 3.5%. Silver closed at 14.75, up 4.4%. Gold to silver ratio went down 2% to 110 points. The dollar index went down 0.02% to 100.8 points. All the cryptos went pretty crazy today. Bitcoin closed at 7,297, which is up almost 8%. And Ether went on a tear of 15%, 15.5%, and closed at 164.
Whoop, whoop. I have a lot of ether. A lot of ether, more than I wish I had. Silver, that was an hour ago. Silver is above $15 now.
Oh, really?
It's 15.01 bid, 15.11 ask.
Okay.
So that dollar, that the gold silver ratio is getting back to normal, or it's approaching 100.
Yeah.
And some of us have silver too. I think all of us have silver. Yeah, what do you guys on the Dow, on the Wall Street markets? Why do you guys think they're up 7% today?
Because the money's hitting the market.
Okay.
Probably David Icke.
Possibly. I think, my I sent out some messages from Sue, my relative Sue, who's kind of in investment circles. There is a dissension in the ranks apparently among the leadership of the country and stuff like that. And it's possible that Wall Street types are anticipating things going a different direction, especially with Fauci not showing up at those couple press conferences like Josh noted.
He still has not been seen?
No. And he has been going on CNN in the evening time and has kind of been giving the contradictory story to the daily press briefing.
He gives a different story on CNN than he gives at the White House?
Correct. Well, he's not allowed at the White House right now.
Right.
Probably because of his differing opinions on CNN.
Right.
Mike, do you want to kick us off with just a little talk about the video you sent this morning?
Yeah, it's kind of unorganized.
Give us a little
like
yeah. What it's about. I'm going to post the link.
Let me get the guy's name again. Professor Witkowski, and he formerly worked at the Rockefeller University. He's been a statistical epidemiologist for 35 years, worked in epidemiology, and he was talking about the proper response to something like this. He worked with the SARS and the MERS events, and he models epidemics as part of his living, and pandemics. And so he was talking about how the reaction to this virus, COVID-19, is actually making things worse. he's pointing out that if they had just left it alone, the virus would have peaked after about 2 weeks and then dropped off. And also that the number of deaths that have occurred when you count the flu and COVID-19, it's within the normal range of flu deaths every year. They're inflating the COVID-19 issues, and they're also prolonging it. If they had allowed people to continue gathering together, kids going to school and going to church and whatever, then the so-called herd immunity would have built up, and it would have killed off the virus already. But as it is, it's continuing on, and that increase in time is allowing more people to be allowing greater opportunity for more people to become infected. So what you would want to do is just isolate the vulnerable, the older and the frailer people until the event is over, and then you're done. And he also pointed out that this whole flattening the curve thing is going to result in a second wave, most likely, because the opportunity to develop that herd immunity has been taken away. So you actually want people to get together and develop that immunity, and that's what kills off the virus. But that's not what they're doing, which is interesting because there've been flu goes around every year, and we've had SARS and MERS and all that. They don't do anything. They go away pretty quickly. But in this case, it seems like they want to extend it. But he was pointing out that what he said in the video is quote, people are too docile. He's saying that we're too docile, we're putting up with too much. And so it's a video that's really worth watching. And can you throw the link up on David on the live comments?
It's there.
It is, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so everyone go check that out. It's a really informative video. And I think it's one that we need to push out into the public as a primer, because we need to push I think we need to push on the powers that be to put an end to the martial law situation, because it's going to make the virus worse, and that information needs to get out. All that people like Dunleavy, all he's getting is, it seems, is bad information from compromised people like Fauci. Remember, Fauci received $100 million at the NIH from Bill Gates. The CDC received $13.5 million from Bill Gates. The guy we've been talking about pushing the mandatory implantable chips with your vaccine record on it. So the guy is totally compromised. And I think Dunleavy is probably just getting bad info. And we need to get the real information to him.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you a question. I've been wondering about this with the people that had the first reaction to it, that we know of anyways, is the Chinese government. And you would think that they would understand herd immunity with 1.7 billion people living as close as they do. Why do you think that they took the avenue that they did? I mean, because it's not like they need social experimenting and martial law and cracking down, and they don't need to take over their economies and blah, blah, blah. So I wonder why was their reaction the way that it was? Because we're basically following their model.
Right. That's a good question. It seems to be a fear-based reaction. Why did they have so much fear over this versus SARS? Actually, back when SARS came out, China was heavily criticized for their lack of response. And so that's probably why they responded so heavily this time. And that's probably why American politicians are doing the same thing. They don't want to get that heavy blame like China did during SARS, and like they're getting now for this. They don't want to receive that heavy blame. So they're basically, it's a CYA thing, I think. I don't think it's because the politicians want martial law and they want to take over. It's an opportunity for someone like Bill Gates to push what he wants, but it's the herd again. It's the herd of politicians responding to a threat, a perceived threat. You know how a flock of birds, one of them will think they see something dangerous and fly off, and everyone else will too. It's exactly the same response. I think that's what's going on. No one wants to be responsible for an outbreak, so they're responding as the masses would, as they expect the masses would want them to.
Peer pressure.
It's peer pressure.
And then the doctor in the video is saying, to the extent that you isolate indoors, you make the best possible environment for sickness to thrive, because you're outside of the sun. You get out that UV out of there. You're close to people, and there's humidity and stable humidity and temperature that is good for virus. That's the point. And then kids getting sick. He says kids getting sick is not necessarily a bad thing, because they get sick and they get over it, and then they're immune. So overall, your population becomes immune quickly when kids get sick. And this disease doesn't have any. It's not a problem with kids. And once they've gotten sick and gotten better, they can no longer get sick, and they can no longer carry the disease. So by isolating kids, the population most likely to spread it will slowly get it and get better across the longest period of time, which will expose old people to the largest number of disease carriers who don't already have immunity. That was his point. If it's hard to follow, watch the video. It's a bunch of clips of him talking about this that are pieced together. And he's not a virus denier either. So
no. And he's not an anti-vaxxer either. He points out in the video that that's one way to get immunity, but another way is just to get the virus. So he's pretty mainstream.
He's pretty mainstream.
Yep. What about the whole thing about not exceeding the capacity of the healthcare system, which has been the argument for this? There was some health minister or something in the UK that suggested this early on and said, we're just drawing this out. Why don't we just get it over with and all get it quickly and get back to work? And they were eviscerated in the media for not getting the thing about the healthcare system getting saturated by having too many cases. You think that's just not applicable in this case?
Yeah, what he says
he addressed it.
Okay.
What he says to that is that kids and healthy people aren't going to end up in the most likely events that cause the healthcare system to get slammed are when things like old folks' communities get hit.
I see. Yeah.
And so by stretching out the length of the virus, you increase the probability that
their exposure goes up.
Yeah, he says he talks about flattening the curve, so to speak. He said you don't really care about flattening the curve for all populations. You only care about flattening the curve for your high-risk populations, which you can already isolate.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
He also said that these overflow hospitals that they're building aren't necessarily emergencies that they didn't think about. He said it's all part of, these aren't new things that they came up with because of the COVID-19 thing. It was these overflow hospitals are part of the plan. It's not an overload. It's part of the plan. We already have these measures in place.
That's why they went up so
for this
fast.
type of situation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of them, they don't even know if they have COVID. I think, Dave, I sent you a video, and in it, where there was a guy. It was a guy who was filming a paramedic who just transported someone that supposedly had COVID, and the camera person asked, "How do you know that he had COVID?" And the paramedic says, "Well, we just assume he did." And yeah, we just assume. So you just assume that that people have COVID when you bring them in? Yes. So do they have flu? Do they have the cold? Do they have COVID? What do they have? And it's like a hyperactive response. Oh, he's sick. He must have COVID. Everyone's so on edge. They're just making assumptions. Mm-hmm.
If you have protocols, though, you'd want to be, assuming the worst, I guess, just to give them a little bit.
To be fair, if you're a paramedic,
Mm-hmm.
it's safer to assume that it's worse and protect that way. And the paramedics' assumptions don't go into the final statistics, right? That's done after the test is administered. But the person that goes and picks up the sick person doesn't need to know. They just their job is to deliver people and not get sick. But yeah, I saw that clip too, and he was saying that there hadn't been very many calls for ambulances.
Right. Yeah. So
my Canadian, some of my Canadian buddies had seen that clip too. Like that video's gotten circulated widely.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, because
which I suppose people can take it either way too. I mean, it could add to the fear of even these ambulance drivers assume everyone's sick. Rawr.
Yeah, there were a lot of clips on that video of the news talking about all these long lines at the testing facilities, and then the person would go down to the testing facility. It was completely empty. So it's probably another case of the news paying $50 to someone to stand in a line with a mask on.
Or timing it, like, hey,
right.
we need to do a dry run of the testing facility, so everybody show up.
Yeah, in fact, did you see that one picture that was being circulated? Of COVID. It was a COVID story, and it was a picture of a mannequin on a stretcher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a bunch of interesting ones like that. There's one that this hospital in New York, it's they're working hard on COVID, and it was the same scene from a news story in Italy. They're just recycling the same footage. So.
Yes, is happening.
Right. So yeah, we don't really know.
And more reporting.
Yeah, this happened with 9/11 too.
It happened with the USS Maine. So, yeah, it's an old thing.
Live from Riyadh.
Yeah. Disappointing. Other interesting video that came out today. I'm going to post a link to it in the comments. I think I can do this. Check this out. Look at that.
Dang.
I don't know if people can click on that or not.
You can pause the video and type it in.
Yeah, you can pause the video and type it in. Anyway, if you go to that link, you will see. I'm gonna load up the stream. Nah, it's not clickable. Anyway, if you go to that link, there was a live stream with Brian Rose from London Real, and he kind of interviews interesting people. He's kind of like a Joe Rogan type guy, if you guys know the Joe Rogan podcast. Anyway, he did a live stream with David Icke, who's sort of a conspiracy theorist extraordinaire. But Icke is interesting because a lot of the stuff he talked about in the 90s that sounded absurd, actually I'm going to say every single thing that he's talked about in the 90s, with the exception of the royal family being lizard people, and the moon being hollow. With the exception of those two things, everything has come out. Everything has come out. Like the pedo rings that political and wealthy people have, everybody's like, that's crazy. And it was like a exact description of the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, like to a T. That they have private islands that they go to and stuff. Anyway, so he has a very interesting David Icke, his live stream with Brian Rose, which is linked right there. Very interesting, worth watching. It's a couple hours long, and he spent the last few weeks just digging into like what's going on. How do you what is a COVID-19 diagnosis? How are the tests put together? How are the statistics being compiled? All of that stuff. It's kind of like a really good wrap up of all that. And most of the stuff that he talked about in the interview, you can dig further on. And he doesn't tell you what to think. He says, I'm just putting this stuff together. You go and figure it out for yourself. So he's not like pushing it on anybody, but it's worth listening to. And it was YouTube pulled it within about, 15 minutes of the interview ending for violating community guidelines. And so then the whole London Real site went down as well for a while. It came back. If you go to the London Real site, if you follow the link that I just put in there, you will find the interview. I think it's up on Vimeo now. And then here it is. It's on SoundCloud as an audio file too. So I'm going to put the link to the SoundCloud audio file. If you just want to listen to it, you can listen to it right there. But Icke's conclusion, basically at the end of this, was that it is the belief that the leaders of the world are in control that gives them their power, which is exactly what De La Boetie says in The Politics of Obedience, which we've talked about a lot. I'm going to post a link to that right now. It's very short. I would highly recommend reading this book.
Twice?
It's not even a book. It's like an essay.
3 times?
Here's the PDF. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to pull up a little quote from The Politics of Obedience, because it was right along the lines of what Icke was saying. So he says in here, resolve to serve no more, and you are at once freed. I do not ask that you place hands on the tyrant to topple him over, but simply that you support him no longer. Then you will behold him like a great colossus whose pedestal has been pulled away, fall of his own weight, and break in pieces. That's kind of his conclusion. And
Ike's had it right since 1990, and De La Boetie's had it right since 1552.
Yeah, and it goes, and Daniel had it right in his interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So for those of you who know the Nebuchadnezzar story or don't, there's King Nebuchadnezzar has this dream that there's a statue of him, and the head is gold, and the torso's, silver or something, and then part of him's iron, like the legs are iron or something, and the feet are clay. There's some bronze in there. And the feet are clay. And he comes to Daniel, and he says, what does this mean? And he's like, it means like right now stuff's good, and then there'll be a time when, you're strong and whatever. And then at the end of the whole thing, because your feet are clay, somebody's going to come, and all they got to do is strike your feet, and the whole thing falls down. It takes nothing to knock you down. You will be destroyed, and you're no stronger than anyone else. You just have a lot of money right now. And Nebuchadnezzar says, to hell with that. And so he makes a version of the statue, but entirely in gold. And what happened, he ends up getting defeated, and the statue is stolen. It's like all the gold is in one place, and so it all gets stolen by the people who come and defeat him. So, anyway, De La Boetie says the same thing, and then Icke says basically the same thing as well. And he doesn't rabble rouse. He doesn't say, go out and knock down cell towers. He just says, don't buy what's being sold. Live your own life, and get out of. Don't be in fear. It's like even going around and maintaining your 6 feet where it's socially acceptable, even in doing that, if you talk to people and you're just not afraid of stuff, it makes a huge difference in the way that they live. It's like dogs. Like if you talk to a dog and you like all worked up, dog will get all worked up. And if you talk to it all calm, it'll calm down. And we do the same thing with each other. And so that was Ike's thing, is like, if you're not afraid and you're not just lapping up what's being fed to you as if all of it's true, that'll be a revolutionary act. So,
And you can be that way and even, I guess, respect other people's sirat still.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
still respect the way that they're taking it, but just living, showing them by what your actions are.
Ike
You know,
gets
maybe
into
we'll
that.
see Fauci and Trump and Gates pretty soon. They'll eat grass for the next step.
Yeah, right.
Follow up a little more, King Nezzy.
Yeah, they might. They might go and eat grass in the wilderness. Yeah. Ike actually, yeah, Ike, it emphasizes that point, is like, if you're not afraid, then you don't need to react negatively to people who disagree with you. So even the people who are spinning in fear or whatever, you don't have to convince them of anything. You don't need them to, if you're confident in your position, you don't need them to agree with you in order to feel validated. And so he brings that up, and he says that's the key to. He points out. I shouldn't say that he says. I should say that he points out, because all these things are just true, regardless of who says them. That that conflict between people basically arises from people not agreeing to be different, or not being okay with others who are different, and that always gets used politically to divide people into classes where you can then have voting blocks that vote against each other so that you can have power consolidated. So his way of addressing it, he spends a couple hours talking about, all the problems with the story around the virus itself. And then at the very end, he talks about the response, which is like, don't be afraid, fear not. So, and then he points out to like the people who have been arguing religiously for a long time. He's like, hey, guess what? COVID-19 lockdowns apply to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. So why are you guys fighting with each other? Like, you're being controlled by a cult that you've missed. It's called the state. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Mhm.
The most influential of all the religions.
With the remove consent thing, there's a funny parallel to the stuff on the college campuses about continuous consent before and during sex, but that's never applied to ideas or the state, or it's never applied to the consent that's given implicitly by most people.
The social contract.
Yes.
Right. For people who don't know what social contract theory is, I'm going to put it up. There's a term called the social contract. You'll hear it talked about. And what it is that it's the statement that somebody else believes that you've agreed to everything that's happening in your society by the act of continuing to be present. So if you're social contract theorists will say, if you live in the United States, you've agreed to everything that happens because you haven't left, including being told you can't leave.
Mhm.
Don't try to work it out too hard. Like, the contradictions are too extreme to make sense of.
Right. Well, yeah, slavery was a social contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, it goes all the way back to the fact that you were born in a jurisdiction means you accept the social contract of that jurisdiction. Just because you were born there.
Should have picked a better place to be born. Sucker. Yeah. So what Mike's pointing out with the first video with the doctor, I'm gonna post it again, is great. It's a video with some information that's super digestible. So check it out, and if you like the information that's in there, Mike's suggestion is send it along to Dunleavy, because a lot and a lot of these state orders, whatever state you live in, whatever city you're in, a lot of these orders are just like you guys are saying, they're just being done as a CYA thing. Nobody wants to be the one who didn't order the lockdown or whatever. And this isn't to say that the lockdowns aren't even a good idea. It's just some additional information that people could think about. It's another perspective on it, and the guy's not a virus denier or anything weird like that. So worth checking out.
Yeah, and I sent it to Dunleavy this morning too. So go ahead and send some more to his inbox.
Yep.
But yeah, as long as he and others think, as long as he thinks that the people are demanding to be protected, he's going to respond that way. But if people look at this information and point it out to him, maybe he won't be in the mindset that they want to be protected. Maybe he'll be in the mindset of maybe they're educating themselves and just want to be opened up for the market again, and he'll do it. It's just CYA for him. So let him know that that's not the direction that you want him to go. I don't think he's trying to be evil at all.
I don't know. They are power freaks too.
Yeah, they do tend to be politicians.
You get to start to enjoy such things.
Yeah, in the case of the states, though, we've talked about this before. The states can't print their own money, and so this actually hurts the states in a way that it doesn't hurt the feds. And so I don't think the governors are as excited about this as the administrative leaders in Washington.
Mm-hmm. It could be that it's just part of the funding bills that the state gets. He's got to keep making nice to get the bills. Yeah. Or to get the bills paid, I should say. Especially with oil this low.
A lot of the states that are pounding it the most too, they're all states that are fairly liberal and they're broke.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Cuomo pretty quickly said, "We're out of money. We're broke. We need money." I think a lot of that, California, they're broke. Why not cause a pandemic or not cause it, but feed on as much as possible, then hold your hand out to the federal government because you can't print your own money, but they sure the heck can and hand some out to you.
Mm-hmm.
It was wide open.
Yeah. There's a lot of self-interest in that, and you're seeing different responses from governors. And then Cuomo, of course, is the one saying that he's having the adult response and should be taken seriously. But it's another one of these. I've heard talked to other couple people who've said, well, at least Cuomo's taking it seriously. True. What is the metric? This is one of those fun questions. What is the metric for how serious? What does taking it seriously mean, first of all? And then how far is too far? And what is not far enough? Because if you don't establish some sort of way of determining what those things are, then you could go as far as you wanted and just say, well, more, if some's good, more is better.
Well, I think we already saw that with the the relief bill, where each party had to outdo the other one in the response, and there's nobody's moving towards some type of appropriate goal. It's who can outdo the other one in their response to show how much they care. It's a very expensive virtue signal with other people's money and livelihoods.
Mhm.
Yep, falling over each other. Totally.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, when I hear someone say, I'm taking it seriously, I tend to think, oh, he's taking it for self-gain. It's like the ones who claim that they're really interested in solving the problems are the ones who are really interested in self-gain. So, from that metric, I say Cuomo shouldn't be trusted. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, right. Or at the very, sure.
Mhm.
If you wanted to be really, really generous, you could say that Cuomo has a whole bunch of self-interest because he's the governor of a state that's broke,
Mhm.
and all the actions he's calling for alleviate the brokenness of the state.
Mhm. Right.
But because I mean, he could, like, as the governor, he could probably do a thing where he devolves that to the mayors.
Mhm.
You know, and where he works as a proxy and says the state of New York is not going to take any funds. We're going to disperse. We're actually not even going to touch the money. We are simply going to lobby on behalf of the communities that need the money the most, and the money will flow directly into those communities, and it will not touch the state government. He could do that.
But he probably won't.
He hasn't done that, and so his self-interest is not being removed from the problem solving.
Right.
You know, neither here nor there.
Well, I wouldn't give Cuomo the benefit of the doubt of anything he said before this came up, so I don't know why I'd start now. Or any of them. I wouldn't give any of them the benefit of the doubt for anything they say.
Yeah, the burden of proof is kind of on them.
Right.
And a lot of times the burden of proof is just the fear factor. Well, what do you mean we don't have enough proof? Look at fear. Of course, there's all the proof you need.
Mm-hmm. And some of those governors are calling upon the feds to do more, saying, criticizing Trump because he hasn't done enough. He hasn't implemented, nationwide martial law. And are they doing that for political gain, or are they doing that to scapegoat Trump? Or I guess that would be both, wouldn't it?
Yeah, crossover.
Same thing.
Yes, we've talked about how political office is often just it's just a position of a scapegoat.
Yep, Corey brought that up.
Mm-hmm. Right. So.
Corey, in the notes you put this Jordan Peterson quote.
Yeah, so he's got a little thing. He's talking about, I think it was some kind of Jungian thing, but he says if you can't understand why someone is doing something, look at the consequences of their actions, whatever those might be, and infer their motivations. And he was rather cautionary in using that and applying it to everything. He says it's a very he said it's like surgery, and you don't want to do surgery unless you have to. So if you run around doing that all the time, it can be pretty damaging to your relationships. But in this case, I was thinking about it in the terms of underreaction followed by an overreaction. So if you, on the front end, underreact to a pandemic, your caseload 2 weeks from that point will be much higher, and then you will be justified in lots more action once the numbers start going up. And I think that can be applied to a lot of the stuff that's going on. It's just a lens you can view this through, but it fits in well with the stuff that Icke was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who benefits? Who benefits? Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to hit on for today? I think we plowed through quite a bit. pretty quick here.
No,
I got a bebop no matter
I'm
what.
good.
Yep. Very cool. Well, we'll be back on Wednesday, if not sooner, with another one of our weekly updates. Check out the show from Saturday. It was real good, and we had Bob Wenzel on Friday. So if you guys haven't seen those episodes, go to our YouTube channel, check them out. Please share these with other folks. We love feedback and phone calls and stuff like that. So if you know people who agree or disagree, who would call in and tell us our business or whatever, share the YouTube channel. Let them know when the broadcasts are. They're around this time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we have a call-in number. And yeah, welcome a lot of different opinions here. It'd be fun to have more conversation. Very cool. Well, yeah, I'm all good. I will
All right.
see you guys Wednesday.
2 days.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Yep.